I was on Tim Pool's show, Timcast IRL, on Friday evening, and we were talking about the idea of neutrality and indoctrination. And I said on the show that there's no such thing as neutrality. There's no such thing as just this neutral playing field. Either one side is dictating the values and morals, or the other side is dictating the values and morals. So when Republicans think naively that we can just step back and have this sort of even playing field, that's why we lose the culture war, because the left just steps in and fills this vacuum. I thought you guys might want to check this out. It was super fun, and I'll tell you a little bit about what it was like behind the scenes, but take a look at this.
I want to jump to a somewhat different but similar story, or a similar vein. This is from timcast.com. Texas passes legislation requiring 10 commandments to be displayed in every classroom. The bill's sponsor says the 10 commandments are part of American tradition. Under SB 15115, which just passed the Senate by a 17-12 vote, every public elementary or secondary school must prominently display a durable copy or framed copy of the 10 commandments that is at least 16 inches wide and 20 inches tall. The display must also be legible to a person with average vision from anywhere in the classroom. The bill's sponsor, State Senator Phil King, said during a committee hearing on the bill that the 10 Commandments are part of American heritage and that it's time to bring them back into U.S. schools. If they're putting critical race theory, critical theory, gender ideology in schools, personally, I don't see any difference. And so my response is going to be, if you are trying to pass Marxism into schools, then okay, fine, you do that, they do this. What am I arguing?
Can I tell you my super based opinion on this?
Sure.
Okay, my super based opinion on this is that this is fabulous and that they should do it, and that it violates nothing about our heritage of law here. So truly in the conservative movement, the Republican Party, there's a difference between how we view laws, right? There's like the libertarian view that's like, we should be able to do whatever we want as long as we don't violate somebody else's fundamental human right. Government should get off my lawn. And then actual conservatism is not libertarianism. Actual conservatism is like in the style of Edmund Burke, right? Where it's not absolute liberty, it's ordered liberty. Ordered liberty being defined as more like the pursuit of justice. And he defines justice, because you're like, okay, well, what's justice? And he defines justice as original justice, capital O, original justice, meaning rooted in the traditional Judeo-Christian morality. And this is not just something like, oh, okay, I'm a practicing Catholic, I'm coming in here with my religious views. Edmund Burke's philosophy is what our Constitution was based on. James Madison, the father of our Constitution, quoted Edmund Burke. So my belief is that indoctrination is morally neutral. It's not good or bad in and of itself.
I agree.
And there's no such thing as neutrality. Either we are going to be indoctrinating or they are going to be indoctrinating. So if we don't have this in schools, then Marxism, which I would argue is a form of like satanic ideology, then Marxism is going to be in our school. So I would much rather have this.
You know, I'm neutral on it. I certainly understand why Christians and Catholics and, you know, whatever, and many Jewish people probably would be like, yes, this is fantastic. We should have these values instilled to our children. And you're completely right about indoctrination, 100%. I would prefer the 10 Commandments over Marxism. Mm-hmm. So if someone came to me and said it's one or the other, I'd be like, oh, 10 Commandments all the way.
But the system where they're like, hey, here's a really horrible choice. And you're like, I don't want that. They're like, okay, here's a little bit less horrible choice. Want that one instead? You're like, yeah, I guess it's less worse. There doesn't have to be either of them.
This is the compromise.
No, that's what I don't believe.
This is the compromise.
I don't think there's anything. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We're not talking about the school teaching Bible study. They're actually putting Marxism in classroom curriculum, and critical race theory and critical gender theory is literally being put into math problems. This is the compromise. We're going to put it on the wall and say no.
I'd like to see the 4 pillars of Islam posted next to it.
But our country is not based on the 4 pillars of Islam. Our country is literally based on this. Think about our laws against homicide. Why do we, as a people, recognize that other human beings deserve protection under the law, but like dogs don't, or something like that? If you look at morality and think about morality, there's actually no such thing as secular morality. Secular morality is just anarchy. It's just the strongest can dominate the weak. The only reason that we have order in our country right now, even as we are in a chaotic era, is because we have some acknowledgement at the base level that people have dignity, that people have value, and that order is based on Judeo-Christian values. Now, you don't have to practice those values in your personal life, but it is ahistorical to ignore the fact that our entire system, our entire republic is based on that. Okay, a couple things. First of all, this is exactly why we boycott Bud Light. This is why conservatives this time are serious about this boycott, because we are understanding, maybe for the first time in my lifetime when we're fighting this culture war, we're understanding that if we allow the other side to dominate the narrative or to dominate the culture war, then our values and our morals are going to become obsolete. Because there's no such thing as a neutral playing field. It is either their values or it's our values. And our values are so radically different right now. It's quite literally freedom and liberty and Christianity, Judeo-Christian values versus Marxism and atheism. We've talked more actually about the separation of church and state because that topic came up. So if you want to catch the rest of that, you can go obviously to Timcast IRL on YouTube and watch the whole thing. It was like 2 hours long. I had a great time. They have a wild setup over there. It's like the ultimate, I would say it's like the ultimate man cave bro house. It's not exactly a fratty environment, but it's definitely like made for exactly what men that age would like. Like this is definitely like a bro house. Really cool setup that they have there. And really kind of them to have me on the show. I really enjoyed being there. The really fun thing is this big chicken coop in the backyard. You guys familiar with that, of course. It's humongous, actually. It's as big as a small house. It's super cool, super cool. Okay, so we're about to get to Ray apps, I promise. But first I want to talk about Donors Trust. We're sponsored today by Donors Trust. You can go to donorstrust.org/Liz. They're the principled, tax-friendly way to simplify your charitable giving. We're conservatives. We don't like to give our money to big daddy government. We don't like to give our money to greedy federal bureaucrats. We like to give our money to private charity. If you, like me, want your hard-earned dollars going to private charities instead of the federal government, I highly encourage you to open a giving account with Donors Trust. Here's how it works. First, you establish your account with Donors Trust. Then, through your account, you and your family can recommend grants to public charities. All contributions to the account are immediately tax deductible. You can make grant recommendations to a variety of local or national nonprofit organizations. Giving accounts are not only tax advantaged, they are anonymous. They also, by the way, make filing taxes simpler because Donors Trust takes care of the paperwork. So instead of digging up receipts ahead of tax day, Donors Trust givers are free to focus on their charitable goals. So whether you want to give to charities fighting woke gender ideology or saving unborn babies or pushing back against government overreach, discover whether Donors Trust is the giving account provider for you. Visit donorstrust.org/Liz. That's donorstrust.org/Liz.